Hi, my name is Mackenzie, and fun fact about me, I have correct opinions about everything. I sleep like a baby at night knowing that my perception of the world is the only one that is accurate. And I make it my duty on the internet to tell everyone else how wrong they are. And I mean everyone. I spend every second of my day in comment sections, DMs, just spamming people with my hot takes. Oh wait, no I don't. I make my own content that you can choose to watch or not. And I am constantly criticizing people on here, don't get me wrong, but I do think there is a difference in critical analysis and just being an a-hole. Sorry, it's early enough in the video that I can't swear yet, just give me a few more minutes. It is my correct opinion that when someone makes a choice that you don't agree with and that choice isn't hurting anybody and they did not ask for said opinion, you have the obligation to keep it to yourself. More specifically, when a member of a religion decides to leave that religion and other members of said religion decide to tell them that they're making the wrong choice for themselves. And even more specifically, when David Archuleta, a beloved poster boy for the Mormon church, announces that he is no longer Mormon and Mormons in his comment section take it personally, that is a-hole behavior. The thing that me and David have in common is we have never done anything wrong ever. Okay, but seriously, he is a baby angel sent from heaven to bring us joy. He is the definition of wholesome, unproblematic, and if heaven is real, he will for sure be there welcoming people in. And yet some members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints decide to have a bitch fit because he's not the same religion as them anymore. And that's really hard for them. So let's talk about my little macaroon David and his journey so far in the public eye. The year is 2008. I am a junior in high school. American Idol is on the television. David Archuleta and David Cook are the two finalists, and when the other David wins, I am devastated.
The winner by 12 million votes of American Idol 2008 is David Cook.
I was curious to see what David Cook was up to now, and turns out he's still touring and has put out 3 albums since his American Idol win, so good for him. Come Back to Me is still a bop. Or When You Find You, Come Back to Me. But they both fared well because even though David Archuleta didn't win his season, he still ended up getting a record deal. So maybe it was a good thing he didn't win, or we would have never had Crush or A Little Too Not Over You, and that's simply not a world that I want to live in. The LDS members, including myself, immediately loved him because he was representing our church, and so we were happy to root for him because Jesus. There was some drama afoot when it was reported that his father, Jeff Archuleta, was banned from rehearsals for being too much of a stage dad. And in one article it said this had happened before when David was on Star Search in 2003 when he was 12, and these videos are incredible. I found this performance of him singing Fallen by Alicia Keys, and he ate that up.
I keep on falling when out of love. I keep on falling in and out of love with you. I never felt this way. How do you give me so much pleasure and cause me so much pain?
I hate the stereotypical hindsight when someone comes out of the closet and people are like, oh, well, we should have known, but we really should have known. Some of y'all did, but I was in the dark because I was too busy planning our wedding, so that was not my reality. Anyways, back to his dad. In January of 2009, he was charged with soliciting a prostitute in Midvale, Utah, which I would have no problem with because I support sex workers, but I do have a big-ass problem with him being married at the time. Gross. And his parents divorced later that same year. David said that the negative press surrounding his father did strain their relationship at the time, but that they are healed healed and they're doing fine now. So I will bite my tongue and reserve my opinions about his dad for the sake of David. Anything for you, Cupcake. He loves his dad, and that's that on that. But not only was he dealing with family issues, David Archuleta was not happy in Hollywood at this time. He called his experience on American Idol miserable and traumatic, but he feels guilty saying that because he knows that this show is ultimately what launched the career that he has now. But he's allowed to talk about his shitty experience, even if it did do some good in the end. Two things can be true at once. But when David's first self-titled album went gold, he went to his label telling them that he wanted to go on a mission for his church, and they were like, nope. You have another album with us, sorry. But when that next album didn't do as well as his first did, he was finally dropped, and he seemed to be the only one that was happy about it. And although one could argue that there is a mountain of pressure from the Mormon church to serve a mission, David said he was feeling more pressure on him to stay in Hollywood and pursue his singing career. So according to him, going on a mission was an act of rebellion, ironically. And in December of 2011, he was called to serve a 2-year mission for the Mormon church to Chile. I remember when he was in the MTC choir in General Conference, and I was so excited to see him on my screen. I was like, that's my baby! You go, baby! But on David's mission, this is where he started to process his feelings that he might be queer, and he even came out to his mission president before he came out to his own family, which he eventually did do in 2014. He said that saying he was gay at the time didn't feel quite right because he did still have some attraction to women, and more importantly, he knew he couldn't marry a man if he stayed in the church. He said, quote, "I thought I may be attracted to guys, but eventually I'll be able to make marriage work because that's just how it is. Marriage between a man and a woman is ordained by God. That's the standard. I've been trying all my life to fit that standard and make it work." And this is still the same advice that the church gives to their gay members today. Just be in a heterosexual relationship because God told you to, and everything will work out. Or be celibate and alone for the rest of your life, and you'll be rewarded in heaven with a heterosexual relationship that you still don't want, I guess. Yippee them. David tried so hard to push down his attraction for other men that he was engaged a total of 3 times. In May of 2021, he had a particularly rough panic attack while at dinner with his then fiancée at the thought of being intimate with her. He soon ended the relationship, and a month later in June, he came out on Instagram that he was part of the LGBTQ community. He had expressed at this time identifying with both bisexuality and asexuality, but he was still exploring that side of him. He just knew for sure he was not straight, and he wanted to be open about that publicly. In the caption he wrote, "IDK what to make of it, and I don't have all the answers. I just invite you to please consider making room to be more understanding and compassionate to those who are LGBTQIA+, and those who are part of that community and trying to find that balance with their faith, which also is a huge part of their identity like myself. I think we can do better as people of faith and Christians, including Latter-day Saints, to listen more to the wrestle between being LGBTQIA+ and a person of faith. There are more than you may realize going through that wrestle after all the misunderstandings that come with it." So at this point, he still was trying to make the church work for him, and in interviews after that, David confessed that he was struggling with suicidal ideation, which is extremely common for members of the queer community, especially in church. In David's words, "I felt like I was burying a body and it wouldn't ever die because it's me. I was getting to the point of like, I need to bury this. I need to bury myself with it. I was thinking it was better off for me to not even exist because I don't want to be a way that God doesn't want me to be." At that point, I was like, if he's not there, then why does this even matter? At his home in Nashville, he fell to his knees and began a prayer he'd made countless times before. "God, please take this away from me. If you're there and if you really have a plan for me, please change me. I know you can change things. You could change water into wine. You can change me." That is so fucking heartbreaking. But after this prayer of desperation, David did receive an answer. He felt a distinct impression that God did not want to change him because there was nothing wrong with him. And that's when he felt like he needed to start speaking up publicly so that others feeling this pain and conflict with who they were and their faith would know that they are not alone. So once he did that, the church lowered their glasses and were like, "Keep an eye on that young man right there. It could be useful for us." They wanted to use the shit out of him like they do every other token marginalized person that defends the church for them for free. And in the fall of 2021, he even met with an unnamed apostle of the Mormon church who was less than helpful in his advice to David.
I've had a faith crisis this year, so now I'm like, I've had to deconstruct everything.
The Church of Latter-day Saints is the fourth largest Christian church in America, with leaders they call apostles. And after meeting with one of them last fall, Archuleta decided that he was done with what he says are contradictions in the faith.
I think 3 times in that conversation, he said, well, we just need to find you a good girl. Maybe you can find a good girl, and I'm like, that's not the solution. And I said, can you see why I'm thinking so much? Because I'm trying everything I can to find a way to still belong here, because this has meant so much to me.
That's right. After learning about David's struggle and wanting to unalive himself, a man holding one of the highest positions you can have in the Mormon church told David that he just hadn't met the right girl yet, even though he had already tried that 3 different times and it led him to the brink of wanting to die. They said, don't care. Do it again. He never names this apostle because he's a better person than I am, but does it really matter which one it was? The 12 apostles of the Mormon church are supposed to be literal witnesses and representatives of Jesus Christ himself. And for someone like that to look David in the eye and with all the compassion of a brick wall tell him he's just not doing it right is all you need to know about how the church works. David thought that Jesus would be happier with him if he never acted upon being gay, which he hadn't up until that point, and instead just offed himself, because that is what he was taught in church growing up, that being gay is a sin next to murder, and it would keep him from being with his family in the next life. But David being suicidal was seen as a him problem, not a church problem. And he finally saw right through their bullshit and decided his life was more important than the psychological torment that he was suffering. He said, "For my own mental health, I can't keep putting myself in a place where it's so conflicting, where they say we love you so much, but at the same time you must change who you are. Oh, you can't? Then we're going to ignore this problem. I tried to hide from this all my life and I can't. I just had to take a step away, take a break from religion, because for my own sanity, I did not want to weigh out whether it was better for me to live and exist, or if it was better for me not to exist. It hurts me because my religion was everything for me, but you get to a point where you realize there are some things not right here. I need to just live my life because I already know I'm okay how I am." Even though I don't identify as queer, his experience leaving the church is very relatable to me because it's extremely painful and lonely and terrifying. The church teaches you that you're not only rejecting Jesus, you're also rejecting your family as well, and you're now the empty chair in heaven because you didn't want to be with them. And nothing could be farther from the truth. But when David first told his mom that he was going to start dating guys, she said she loved him, but she loved God more, and she didn't agree with the path that he was going down, as she was a devout Mormon at this time, and she knew it could possibly lead him out of the church, aka out of her family forever. But when an article came out in 2022 that he had decided to fully step away from the church, he didn't hear anything from her for a couple of days, and he was worried that she was gonna be upset with him for the rest of his life. But he got a text from her saying that she had decided to leave as well, saying, "If you are going to hell, we are going to hell with you."
I saw my child praying the gay away. I saw him praying the gay away. He couldn't. There was many nights that I sat on my bed in tears of pain because I think I was feeling David's pain when he came out. I was feeling it, all of it, all the pain. And I was kind of like suffocating. I sat in church one day in sacrament meeting and I looked around. I didn't see any LGBTQ people sitting around. I said, why is that? So I looked around, sacrament meeting, and I thought, God loves his children. God is not here.
I just need members of the church to take note that Lupe's faith in God did not go away. David's faith in God did not go away. Their faith in the LDS church went away, and those are 2 very different things. God is not here is how I summarized what went through my head when I decided that I was done. I wasn't immediately like,
wow, none of this is real, and I hate Jesus.
I was like, the Jesus that I was taught about is not something I am seeing at all in this organization. Hearing her say that really hit me hard, and his mom inspired him to write the song Hell Together. So let's read these lyrics and cry, shall we? His lyrics read, bow your head, don't be bold. You'll survive but doing what you're told. Said love is earned and we can't choose, but the more you grow, you know the truth. Bow your head, don't be bold is such a banger first line. Obviously, bowing your head is a generally religious symbol, not exclusive to the Mormon church. But in the temple ceremony, they do be telling you to bow your head a lot, so that hit me. And then saying you'll survive by doing what you're told when he almost didn't survive, when a lot of us almost didn't survive. I need more religiously themed music from him as soon as humanly possible. Thank you, David. The chorus goes, you said if I have to live without you, I don't want to live forever in someone else's heaven, so let him close the gates. Oh, if they don't like the way you're made, then they're not any better. If paradise is pressure, oh, we'll go to hell together. I have no words. Perfect song is perfect. If heaven is full of assholes, I don't want to be there either. And then here is the motherfucking bridge. Hallelujah, what's it doing for ya when it's in the way? Hallelujah, wish we knew it sooner, walking out with grace. Hallelujah, what's it doing for ya when you're doing everything the church is telling you to do to be happy and you're still not fucking happy and it's actually getting in the way of your happiness? I wish we knew it sooner. Walking out with grace. He's talking about years and years that he wasted in this organization, but you have to give yourself grace because you didn't know any better until you knew better. This song is not only so real and vulnerable, but it is a far cry from any Book of Mormon musical lyric where they're calling God the C word. But you would think that's what's happening based on some people in his comment section. From day one of David deciding to step back from the church, some Mormons immediately took it upon themselves to note that the light had left his eyes, how sad they were that he was led astray by Satan. Thoughtful Sate, aka Jacob Hansen, said, and where is he going? Frowny face. Bitch, to the club? Wherever he wants? What do you mean, where is he going? Someone replied saying, sad article, it's pretty clear he never understood even the basic tenets of our faith and what God is like. He looks terrible. Look at those eyes, you can see the change in his countenance. First of all, Christ-like countenance, not real, or they wouldn't have had to AI the shit out of President Nelson's face last conference. Also, let's do a case study really quick about countenance. On the left, you will see David Archuleta on the cover of his first album making the same sultry eyes he is making in the picture on the right for the article that came out. You are telling me that on the left, he looks Christ-like, and on the right, he does not? You're telling me there's a difference? That's just his face. This is how I know y'all are full of shit. Just because someone looks serious in a photo does not equal them being unhappy. It's called smizing. It's called serving looks. It's called serving I just had to point that out because it makes me so angry. Second of all, it is insane to read David's story about how he wanted to die and say it's really sad that he chose to live. Like, no hate like Mormon love. And he continues to get these comments from people telling him he isn't actually happier because if that were true, it would shatter their worldview that anyone who isn't Mormon is actually secretly miserable. So instead of just letting him live his life because him leaving the church was not a personal attack against them, they lash out and tell him that his story of wanting to unsubscribe from this earth is not a good enough reason to leave the church. Because no reason is a good enough reason to leave the church to some people. Insane. The people on the internet that cannot resist bearing their testimony to strangers so that they get some kind of brownie points in heaven need to be humbled expeditiously. I came across a reel recently by a Kristen Walker Smith who said 1 in 4 people in your ward are considering leaving the church and says that you need to bear your testimony because you never know who needs to hear it. And I think she means doing that exclusively in church meetings, which I agree with. Say whatever you want at your place of worship. step. But the church definitely encourages bearing your testimony to anyone with ear holes. And since we're talking about statistics, did you know that half of gay teens have thought about unaliving themselves? And that the leading cause of death for kids aged 11 to 17 in Utah is sewer slide? And that the CDC recommends taking your testimony and shoving it up your ass? The amount of members who are taking it upon themselves to reconvert David Archuleta is very embarrassing. And if an apostle of the church could not convince David to stay, what do you think you're about to do? Especially when it's such a hateful comment. Like, he said, I'm following the devil? I had no idea. I'll come back immediately. Thank you. Like, people don't take the time to actually either read his story, listen to why he left. They just see XYZ person left the church and they get really upset about that. In conclusion, the Mormon leaders do not give a shit if you do not fit into the box they want you to be in. They say, get back in the box. And you say, I literally can't fit in that box. It's uncomfortable. It's painful. And oh, that box makes me want to die. And they say, oh, I'm sorry, did I ask? I'm perfectly happy in that box. I don't know what your problem is, so get back in the box or you don't actually love Jesus or your mom. How about that? Anyways, thank you for watching. Leave David Archuleta alone. Say goodbye to Rexy and Trixie, or Rexy will be sad. Trixie won't because she is dead. But her spirit will be sad. In all seriousness, if you are struggling, just know that I love you and you're absolutely not alone. And Jesus wants you to be alive. Anyone else can suck my dick. Bye.